Hello, friends. It's me, a private detective, and today I will tell you a story that has been etched in my memory forever. A story about how, in the mid-80s, our people first heard the word mafia. Back then, the Italian TV series La Piovra, the octopus, was airing, and for most viewers, foreign crime seemed like something unreal, almost mythical. However, it turned out that even in the Soviet Union, there was an organized criminal group, people who believed they were the first Soviet mafiosi and had truly ambitious plans. It was a cool autumn evening, November 14th, 1986. I was in my office when the phone suddenly rang. The voice on the other end belonged to Lieutenant General Bogdanov, the head of the Moscow police. His tone was strict and tense. A major incident had just occurred in the capital. There had been an attack on cash couriers near the Molodezhny department store. A sum of 330,000 rubles had been stolen, and among the victims were people whose lives would never be the same. I immediately realized that this was going to be a tough case. At that time, Moscow was plunging into chaos. The streets felt like the set of a crime thriller. That same evening, Boris Yeltsin personally called for a car and rushed to the crime scene. Upon arrival, we saw utter turmoil around the department store. Police officers, detectives, and witnesses were everywhere, all caught up in the intensity of the moment. I understood that piecing together the chain of events would be a daunting task. Later, it became known that everything had started at the end of the workday when the cash courier Novikov carried a bag of money out of the store and loaded it into a state bank vehicle. Suddenly, two armed men emerged from the darkness. A shootout ensued. The driver and the courier came under fire. The bag contained not only banknotes but also metal coins weighing nearly 10 kilograms. At that moment, Vera Alfimova, a security guard who had just finished her shift and was heading to the bus stop, heard the gunfire. Without hesitation, she rushed to help, forgetting that she was unarmed. Even a random passerby, a young man walking his dog, got caught up in the chaos. One of our detectives noticed that at the same moment, a policeman, actually an undercover robber named Kondratenko, also drew his gun. But as it turned out, he was out of ammunition. This was one of those rare coincidences that ultimately saved lives. Immediately after the shootout, the criminals wasted no time, jumped into a cherry-red Lada Zhiguli, and sped off. A high-speed chase unfolded on the streets of the capital. The criminals weaved through traffic, crossed solid double lines multiple times, and even drove into oncoming lanes, miraculously avoiding crashes. A police patrol car followed closely behind with sirens blaring, but the officers were strictly forbidden from using their weapons. Innocent civilians could have been harmed. Within minutes, the criminal's car was forced to a stop at a traffic light at the intersection of Amenyevskoye Highway and Vereyskaya Street. Sergeant Kuzmin approached the vehicle and demanded to see their documents. One of the bandits, trying to hide something, reached into his inner pocket, but instead of documents, he pulled out a gun. Shots rang out, and one of the officers fell, managing to fire several shots before going down. In the chaos, the criminals managed to escape, but inside their car, we found the stolen money, weapons, knives, brass knuckles, pistols, and, most chilling of all, the body of a murdered man. From the documents found, we traced the car's registration to a certain Golubkov, a former officer of the KGB's 9th Directorate, known for his impeccable record, a Communist Party member, years of service in the KGB, and later the director of a suburban hunting estate. But his professional background gave no indication of such a brutal crime. Inside the car, we also discovered another crucial lead: documents in the name of Senior Lieutenant Yevgeny Subak, a deputy political officer of a military construction unit. Witnesses claimed they had seen a strange soldier carrying a gas mask bag at the crime scene. Everything pointed to the involvement of a high-ranking officer. In the corner of the car, we found bottles filled with liquid, Molotov cocktails, the deadly incendiary weapon developed by the Finns during wartime to fight tanks. A single bottle was enough to burn a police UAZ vehicle to the ground. Subak continued to deny his involvement, but we decided to play it smart. We told him that his accomplices were wounded and would likely seek medical help soon. Unexpectedly, Yevgeny Subak collapsed to his knees, begging for protection. And that's when I heard the name, Igor Knygin. Igor Knygin, his name would later become synonymous with criminal genius in Moscow. His life was full of contradictions. He had studied at 2 military academies but never graduated from either, worked as a draftsman, and then found himself at the heart of the criminal underworld. His apartment was decorated with portraits of Bruce Lee, a symbol of martial arts, which were rapidly gaining popularity at the time. Inside, we found knives, throwing stars, nunchaku, and even grenades hidden in his closet. Essentially, Knygin was the first to conceive the idea of using a cash courier robbery as a setup for a real terrorist attack. This gang, consisting mainly of former police operatives and KGB officers, had planned a heist that would secure them a luxurious life. The sum of 330,000 rubles, unimaginable for an ordinary Soviet citizen, was their ticket to prominence in the emerging Soviet mafia. But as they say, the higher the stakes, the greater the risk. The gang leader made 2 fatal mistakes. First, choosing to rob couriers near the Molodiyozhny department store, and second, trusting an army officer he barely knew. Knygin gave Subak 2 Molotov cocktails, instructing him to use them immediately after the attack. The plan was monstrous. Set off an explosion at the entrance of a major store to create a diversion for a swift escape. However, at the most crucial moment, Subak panicked and fled in terror. The terrorist act never happened. During their escape, one of the gang members was severely wounded, and former KGB officer Golubkov cold-bloodedly shot him, unwilling to carry dead weight. Just hours later, Subak was arrested, and Knygin himself was cornered by the police in an abandoned boiler room, where he was later found dead, having taken his own life. But the story didn't end there. The remaining gang members were also brought to justice. Finiev and others were convicted, with some even receiving the death penalty. This robbery was the first case where our detectives faced former colleagues willing to do anything for easy money. No one back then could have imagined that in the coming years, crime would evolve so much that the state would be forced to acknowledge its vulnerability to organized crime. After this case, I had to reconsider my views on the job. In those days, when crime seemed distant from the life of an ordinary Soviet citizen, I saw firsthand how something sinister and destructive was brewing beneath the surface. I realized that even the most impeccable-looking biographies could conceal dark secrets. Our investigation revealed a network of former KGB and police officers, people with skills and access beyond those of ordinary criminals. They knew how to manipulate their status to evade justice, and only the clever strategies of our operatives exposed them. Chases, shootouts, unexpected twists, it was a long and intense marathon. As a detective, I had to make split-second decisions, often risking my life to unravel the truth. Every little clue, whether a found gas mask, wet clothes in an abandoned building, or overlooked documents, played a crucial role. This case changed our perception of the criminal world in the USSR forever. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real detective tales, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. Click the bell so you don't miss new episodes. Until next time, friends, stay vigilant and take care. Danger may be lurking where you least expect it.